They owned.
Did they present their own CV to you to prove their pedigree?
Well, some of them, I mean, you can see their faces in the newspaper all the time.
Oh, I see.
You know, so you kind of...
yeah, with your knowledge, you knew
anybody.
You knew who some of them were, okay.
Yeah.
Right, and again, some of them, Ben Fulford would never have guessed. I mean, these are professional people, they're not bums, and so forth, but here they are saying, Ben, we trust you not to talk about this too much, and what we're trying to do is, and what did they say they were trying to accomplish?
Well, I mean, they want to stop these people, obviously.
These people are, who are these people? The Rockefeller, Rothschild, Freemason, Illuminati?
The Rockefellers, the Illuminati families.
Would you call them anti-Asian Westerners, or what would you call them?
Well, they're racist, but they're more than that. They want to enslave humanity.
Okay, and the fewer the number left around, the easier it is to enslave them. So they want a skeleton crew, so to speak, no pun intended, left in China to kind of run things.
Yeah, well, they like the Chinese. They want to keep some Chinese around because they make good stuff, cheap,
well,
you know?
Yeah, just like they want to keep some Africans around in sub-Saharan Africa to work the plantation.
Right, that sort of thinking.
Right.
And so, but they need that. Their plan, as I was told by the Japanese Illuminati, was to weaken China through disease and also starvation. They're trying to, engineer a global food shortage by creating viruses that affect our major food crops. And then they were going to provoke a war by getting Taiwan to declare independence. And their hope by that time was to have the Japanese army as a sort of subdivision of the U.S. Army ready to pounce on China and then divide it into 6 countries. This was the plan told me by very senior Japanese people.
When was this plan cooked? It's a kooky plan, but when was it cooked up?
Quite a long time ago. These people think in decades, sometimes 100 years.
Yeah, well, the Japanese army is not able to go in and subjugate China. This isn't
No, you don't understand. The Japanese army is one of the biggest armies in the world. It's huge. And it would be working with the U.S. Army and the NATO armies,
How big is the Japanese army? How many standing men in uniform?
Well, it's an instant ramen army, okay? What they have is they have lots and lots of officers and lots of weapons. They have the 3rd biggest military budget in the world. And what they can do at any time is they can grab 3 million office workers off the street and turn them into soldiers.
Wow.
So it's actually quite huge.
All right.
And very up to date.
So this plan of subjugating China with this army and other factors like what's left of our army and military might is a plan that is still cohesive, apparently.
Well, not really. You see, the Japanese are still going according to the original plan, but that kind of blew up in Iraq now, didn't it?
It sure did.
The original plan was to grab all the oil in the Middle East and then go and get China, right? But they couldn't quite get their Middle Eastern part over. That's why. And another important thing to understand is that because the Rothschild faction split with the Rockefellers, that's why you had this freedom fry business and all this anti-French stuff, right? Is that they're not getting enough financing to maintain a big army there. That's why they had to use 150,000 troops. The only money they're getting is now from Japan. The Europeans are refusing to finance this adventure in Iraq anymore. So there's been a very major schism here between the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And that's part of the reason why they cannot afford to, really run the Iraq thing properly.
Okay, so now the secret society pointed to SARS as an attempt. And that's what galvanized them. And I guess we come to the next obvious question. Why Ben Fulford?
Well, because I wrote about this in a book in Japanese, which they alerted them, and then they did their own research and confirmed that it was indeed true.
Wrote about the population reduction plans?
Yeah, and SARS and stuff, and how it only affected mainly Asians, and also an interesting little misquote can be found in the Congressional Record for July 13th, 2005. You have a bioweapons expert saying that the weaponization of bird flu is taking place across Asia. It's in the Congressional Record. If they try to erase it, I've got multiple copies stashed here and there. So.
Well, we do know that on April Fool's Day, April 1st of 2005, the resident of the White House, George Bush, signed an executive order which gave the federal government, i.e. George Bush and anybody he designates, full power of quarantine over any and all Americans, towns, cities, counties, states, which have been exposed to H5N1, avian influenza, or any other exotic infectious microorganism. They're not taking any chances. So somebody knows something somewhere, and we've been tracking this. You don't know this. On my program for almost 3 years now with Dr. Henry L. Nyman, Ph.D., who is a brilliant microbiologist and viral geneticist, and he has been following this genetically from the beginning and forecasting what it would do and how it is learning more and more all about how to survive and thrive in mammals, which it is very close to doing now. It's changing all the time and getting closer and closer to true pandemic status. Now, if there is an Asian genetic factor to this, I'm not aware of it, but we do know that Indonesia is rampant with H5N1, and Vietnam and Cambodia and Taiwan have had a lot of trouble with it. So that's a fact. And
it's also a fact that the Asians are no longer sharing the bird flu data with the Americans because they're saying, why should we give you stuff that will allow you to create a vaccine to protect your own people while we die?
Right. No, that makes sense. We wondered why the genomes were being withheld, why the samples were being withheld. Now it makes sense.
The Chinese have been giving them for years now. They've said, "How with that? We're not going to help you protect your own people while you try to kill us."
Okay. Now back to the meeting in Taiwan.
So they've decided that these people need to be overthrown.
The Rothschilds, the Illuminati, the Rockefellers.
Yes, the Illuminati. And specifically, if I have to, I will ally myself with the Rothschilds against the Rockefellers. If it comes to it. I'd rather get them both out of power, but, the Rothschilds are a much mellower bunch at this point.
All right.
They're the global warming thing, and it's stupid, but at least
I wouldn't call, I know I agree with you, but I would suggest that what they're doing in Europe with Bush's so-called defensive missiles, threatening and pushing and provoking Russia, is not particularly sanguine. It's pretty damn dangerous. But the Russians today announced they're going to deploy their new Iskander. It's an intermediate-range cruise missile in western Russia to oppose the Bush so-called defensive missiles, which of course are being placed there or will be placed there to knock down the Topol M, which has also just been advanced dramatically. The Topol M was a single bang warhead. Now it's a MIRVed missile, and it's had 2 successful test firings. So the Topol M is now MIRVed, meaning it has 10 independently targeted thermonuclear warheads in each rocket. Now the Topol has a triple speed boost phase, which makes it very hard to knock down, and these interceptor rockets that Bush wants to put in Europe are specifically designed to try to stop the Topol M in its boost phase. But that's another story. But go ahead, please.
Yeah. So, what it means is that we've now got the Russians and the Chinese and I've been contacted by the Japanese secret government, and it looks like they're also going to turn against the Rockefellers.
Now the Rockefellers have the Japanese by the short hairs, at least they have so far.
Yeah, they have so far. And the thing is, the Japanese want to keep friendly relations with the United States, right? They really do like that U.S.-Japan relationship, and they don't want to damage that. But if they can preserve that relationship and get rid of the Rockefellers, so that would be a blessing for them. They'd be very happy indeed to see that happen.
So is this suggesting some kind of a cooperation between the Chinese secret society and the Japanese government, which wants liberation from the yoke of the Rothschilds?
Absolutely. They're cooperating.
All right.
And they're going to be given an ultimatum soon.
Okay.
We're just waiting for all the ducks to be in a row, but they're going to be given an ultimatum.
All right, stand by. Hold on right there, Ben. We'll come back and talk more about this. Okay. Well, quite a fortune cookie. We'll be right back in just a few minutes with Benjamin Fulford. Okay, and back with Ben Fulford. All right, Ben, you want to carry on right where we were?
Yes. They're going to be given an ultimatum. Now, like I say, when these people first contacted me, once I knew they were for real, the first thing I thought was, well, we play 911 movies in Chinatowns around the world. But then I thought, wait a minute.